Well, joining us now is In Focus health correspondent Linord Moudou. Hi, Linord, what do you have for us today?
Hello, Vincent. Hello, everyone. Well, a new study sheds a light on the potential dangers of some cooking stoves. Analysts say there is a need to improve the cooking conditions in many parts of the developing world. Cooking. Almost everyone in the world does it at one time or another. But how the food is cooked varies from house to house. Electric and gas stoves are often used in the developed world. However, in many places around the world where electricity is scarce, households are burning wood, charcoal, crop residues, and even animal dung for their cooking and heating. They are known as biomass fuels. Experts say biomass creates smoke and harmful emissions and causes household air pollution. Dr. Kirk Smith, professor of global environmental health at the University of California, Berkeley, explains to VOA via Skype.
We call it household air pollution now. We don't call it indoor air pollution because the smoke may start indoors, but then, of course, it goes outdoors and becomes part of general outdoor air pollution. And in some countries, household fuels form a major part of the outdoor air pollution. 25% of outdoor air pollution in India, for example, is due to household fuels. Maybe 16% in China, 40% in some African countries.
In the 2010 Global Burden of Disease study, researchers noted that household air pollution caused about 3.5 million direct premature deaths in 2010, compared to 3 million for outdoor air pollution. Professor Smith is a co-author of the report published recently in the journal The Lancet.
Household air pollution turns out to be the fourth most important risk factor in the world for men and women after high blood pressure, tobacco, and alcohol. The most important risk factor in many poor countries, including India and much of sub-Saharan Africa.
He says women are even more at risk, often due to their domestic roles at home, which include cooking. The research indicates that 3.5 million adult men and women develop lung cancer, cardiovascular disease, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder after their exposure to open cook fires.
Scientific evidence advances over time. So last time we did this in 2004, we only had sufficient evidence for chronic obstructive lung disease, lung cancer, and child pneumonia. But now we've added heart disease and stroke and cataracts to that. Those are the 6 major categories that we feel the evidence is sufficient. Now we have evidence, for example, of tuberculosis and also low birth weight in children.
In 2010, former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton launched the Global Alliance for Clean Cookstoves, a public-private partnership founded to create a global market for clean cooking solutions. Earlier this year, Mrs. Clinton announced new commitments and partnerships in support of the Global Alliance for Clean Cookstoves. They include up to $70 million investment in promoting clean cookstoves in East Africa. The partnership will establish a clean cookstove manufacturing facility in Kenya and satellite assembly plants in Rwanda, Tanzania, and Uganda, which are expected to sell 3.6 million clean cookstoves in the region by 2020. Joining me now in the studio is to further discuss the topic is Radha Muthiah, Executive Director of the Global Alliance for Clean Cookstoves, a public-private partnership led by the United Nations Foundation. Ms. Muthiah, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, could you put this into perspective for us? We understand, considering the research that we heard earlier, we know there is a problem, there may be a problem, but where would you say is the urgency right now?
You know, the unfortunate thing about this issue, it's an issue that doesn't discriminate. So, you know, it'd be easier sometimes if we were to say this is an issue that's really prevalent in these 3 countries or in this one continent. But it's an issue that cuts across countries and continents. So you've heard some of the statistics around that, the 4 million deaths annually now as a result of exposure to household air pollution. It is the #1 health threat in South Asia right now. It's the #2 environmental risk and health threat in Africa. So if you were to try and sort of prioritize a little bit, certainly Asia and Africa, it's very very high up on the list. But with 4 million deaths a year across the world and across 50 different countries, it's an issue that we need to address globally.
Definitely. Why do you think that we didn't hear much about this issue before in the past?
You know, I think there are a lot of different issues that rightfully so have occupied our, the development agenda, if you will. You know, we've looked at malaria, at TB, HIV/AIDS, etc. And all of those are very important issues that needed to be addressed. What we take from that as being very positive is that when the global community puts its resources together, it can tackle these issues. And household air pollution is just something that's a little bit hidden. It's, it's an issue that tends to impact women and girls a lot more than the general population at large.
Yes,
and so it's an issue that hasn't come to the fore. But with this study, it's certainly something that has to be reckoned with now.
So the Alliance was launched in 2010. And obviously, it was important to do so with regards to what you are saying. Where do you see, in terms of the priorities areas, what are the main goals and what do you hope to achieve?
You know, the Alliance was formed because it was seen that it was important for the sector to come together and for a variety of different players to be able to work cohesively to be able to achieve these end goals. So the Alliance has a 100 million target, 100 million households adopting clean cooking solutions. So clean fuels, clean stoves, clean heat preservation devices by the year 2020. So the Alliance is doing a few different things. One is setting standards. Standards is really critical so that we can help define more clearly what's an efficient stove, what's a clean stove. We're conducting a lot of research around the world to show unequivocally that when you use a clean cook stove, you can save a life. You can reduce pneumonia. You can reduce various other health issues that we've seen. And we're having testing centers around the world. And more importantly, we're developing a market. So we're trying to draw investors to invest in various enterprises so that you've got a growth of various different entities that are producing stoves, selling stoves, taking care of after-sales service, a whole sector essentially.
And quickly, in 20 seconds, how do these women in the rural area reconcile with her old way of cooking and this new study that is saying what she's doing is wrong? What does she do? You
know, we have to include women in all along the process. So they're not going to use something that doesn't make sense for their cooking needs. So the Alliance is putting women at the center of its efforts, having them involved in the design, often in the manufacture, the sale of these stoves, so they can test them. They can say what needs to be improved so that they will use them going forward.
And quickly, there's a Clean Cooking Forum next week. What's to expect?
Yes,
5 seconds.
It's in Cambodia. We're having the entire sector come together, and we'll really have a lot of learning, a lot of sharing and brokering of partnerships to catalyze and grow this sector.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank you very much.
And that's our Africa Health Network report for today. For more health news and developments, be sure to visit our website, africahealthnetwork.com.